It's March 12th, 2029, and here's Neil Magnuson!
It seems to be evolving. I wonder where that's going to be in a while.
It's getting better.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the THC Show. I am your host, Neil Magnuson, and this is the show where we talk about THC, our favorite thing, you know, truth, hope, and change. Tetrahydrocannabinol. Yeah, both of those things. We like truth. We have some hope that if we tell the truth, we can get some change. And that's what we try to do on this show, is expose the truths that have been hidden for the last century or so in Canada and get to the bottom of some things so maybe we can turn them around and make them right. On the show today, of course, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn join us for the 420 session and beyond. We'll, of course, do some discussing of the CSP. Maybe visit the Healing Wave CSP Ganja Mobile and talk a little bit about some of the other CSP stuff going on. So, big win in the courts for the cannabis community, apparently. The Warneke, Seaman, and Martin proceedings have now ended with a win. Rest in peace, Jerry. They call it a win because after several years of dragging these people around, you know, with the fear of incarceration and loss and all the rest of it hanging over their heads, the Crown finally decided that it wasn't in the public's interest to continue, and all charges have been dropped and all property will be returned. How very nice. It's a big win, apparently. But at what cost? And who pays for this? And who oversees all of this? The cost to the 3 defendants is really too enormous to calculate. It cost Jerry Martin his life. I'm sure Pat Warneke would be able to fill us in, and will coming up. He's going to be here around 420 this year, not today. And maybe he can discuss some of the costs to him and his family over these last several years, as they took away from him the business that he had built up, helping hundreds and hundreds of very needy people. They closed that all down. They seized all of his stuff. They called him a criminal. They threatened him with all kinds of nasty punishments. And I'm sure they cost him a small fortune in lawyers' fees and associated costs with having your business taken away from you, and all that must have followed since then. Same, I'm sure, for Mr. Siemens, and we all know about Jerry. The cost to Jerry was his life. There is no question in my mind. Had they not decided to do what they did to that man, he'd be alive today and he'd still be thriving. He'd still be the king of compassion. He'd be running his successful businesses in Saskatchewan, dispensary for people that need it, and probably have franchises. The change in the course of Jerry's life led him down a very dark road. The stresses and the pressures involved in going from being a hero to a zero with a criminal tag hanging over your head and demands for money that are difficult to comply with. The seizure of his primary residence, properties, cars. Those of us who knew Jerry well knew that he struggled hard with all of that. We brought some of it out on the show, as he was a regular guest on the show for a while before he really sunk into darkness. They killed Jerry Martin. That was his sentence, even though it's ended and all charges dropped. I don't know what happened to Jason Seaman in his life. We don't know each other and we haven't talked. But you can only imagine a similar path for all these gentlemen. And then there's the cost to us. People who work hard, earn money, and have taxes taken off of their pay, and taxes added to whatever it is they purchase. It seems the Crown has unlimited finances. They're about to take me to court in what we're estimating to be somewhere around $1 million worth of costs to taxpayers. It's not their money, but they have an agenda, and they get to meet that agenda at whatever cost it takes. In the case of Warneke, Siemens, and Martin, it was about 3.5 years into their several-year ordeal that we had estimated that the prosecutor had likely already billed for about $1 million based on the amount of disclosure that they were involved with. That prosecutor took his $1 million and handed the file off to somebody else. And they've spent another 3.5 or 4 years billing on this file that all of a sudden they decide is not in the public's best interest to pursue. So what changed? Didn't they do their due diligence ahead of time to realize that taking medical dispensary owners to court as criminals was not in the public's interest to begin with? I'd like to know when it ever was in the public's interest. I think it's in the interests of the government. I think it's in the interests of those people that are lucky enough or rich enough or connected enough to be able to get licenses to be able to sell cannabis. And apparently Jerry wasn't one of them. This whole thing just reeks so bad. Is that how justice is done in this country? The government decides on a law. I'd like to know how they came to that conclusion in the first place. 100 years ago now. They decide to make possession and handling of one of nature's most raved about plants for thousands of years. The Canadian government decides to make it a criminal offense to have anything to do with that. Didn't they do their homework? Didn't they check it out? Was there no history for them to look at that time to show that cannabis was one of the main components of the trade routes that were going on between different nations? It was a super prized commodity to have. Couldn't they have found that stuff out back then, 100 years ago? Or didn't they want to? China had been using cannabis as medicine for thousands of years. When Canada decides to follow the states and make it illegal. Sorry about that. Please excuse me. This whole thing needs to stop. This is where the change needs to happen. This is where maybe we can tell the truth and some change will happen. We get our first opportunity in the courts coming up in 2 weeks. We'll see what the judge has to say. It would be so nice if the judiciary was independent, wouldn't it? If they could actually not be politicized like they're supposed to not be. Because any judge worth their salt that had an unbiased look at this whole marijuana cannabis file would be rightly appalled. And I'm sure they will be in the future when this thing all sorts itself out somehow. Right now, it's still as corrupt as it ever was, even more. Even more. The government's participation in profiting off of prohibition is now completely overt. There's certainly no hiding the fact that the government is operating a licensing scheme for participants to buy into, where they get to be the legal providers and tax dollars are used to thwart any threat to that. That's crazy, right? That's just crazy. That's a protection racket. That's a monopoly. That's government interference in business and commerce where it's completely unjustified. How obvious does it have to get? And yet we can't seem to do anything about it. We're living in very strange times. Prior to a decade or so ago, maybe two, most people thought that most things were fairly much on the up and up with governments and what their motives were and what their activities were, with corporations and what their motives were and what their activities were in influencing government and things like that. But then it all came out, didn't it? The government is spying on you. The government is collecting all kinds of data on you. The government is in cahoots with a bunch of corporate groups. The government is bought and sold by those corporate groups. And we find out, and there's nothing you can do. Nothing changed, nothing happened, except now everybody knows you can't trust the government. And what can we do about it? We would hope that there could be some remedy, at least through the courts. And there have been some. But they've not been acted upon by government, despite the rulings. This legalization world that we're living in right now is not reasonable access that the courts said people deserve to have a long time ago. Just several new incarnations of old incantations. The same laws, slightly different language, basically the same thing. You are not allowed to sell cannabis to other people. You are not allowed to grow cannabis at all for most of this 100 years, and now most or some of the provinces will let you grow 4 plants if your strata allows it, if your landlord allows it, if the people down, None of this is freedom. None of this is right. All of this is extremely costly and not benefiting the public at all. So we'll do our best, as we always do, when we get before the judge coming up in a couple of weeks, to simply expose how ridiculous this whole thing is. It boggles my mind every time I think about it, and frustrates me that I can't find quite the right meme, quite the right short grouping of words to summarize how criminally hypocritical and outrageously ludicrous this insane situation is of people that are deemed now to be free, living in a free society with publicly, democratically elected public servants, with a basis of law in common law, where there needed to be a victim involved, there needed to be intent involved, there needed to be damage done that could be proven, and numerous other aspects of trying to tweak and get the best form of justice that we could have. But instead, the whole thing became perverted. Because it became a crime to not have done any damage, but simply to have possession of some flower tops or residues. Somehow that became a crime with no victim, no intent to do damage, no damage done. So they had to change it. No longer, no longer based on common law principles, simply called the rule of law. Sounds good. What it means is the government makes the rules, and that's the law. And if you break the rules, then you get punished. And they set these arbitrary punishments on things. And in the case of the crime of possessing some flower tops, could land you in a jail cell. Could get you a criminal record. Could cost you all kinds of money and fines. Could prevent you from crossing borders. Could keep you from getting jobs. All those things. With no intent to cause harm, no harm caused, no victim in the courtroom. And all of that's not beyond a reasonable doubt as to how that is actually a crime. They pulled the hemp over people's eyes. They've created this illusion of what freedom is and what their role in it is. And now we kind of know that push comes to shove, they're in charge. That we're not citizens of this country, we are subjects of a federal government who bows to the crown in England. I'm not happy about that. Are you happy about that? Would any good Canadian be happy to know that? And what's worse, doesn't seem like there's much we can do about it. We are fighting a government armed to the teeth with our own money to try to show that people deserve to be able to have reasonable access to nature's greatest medicinal herb, a herb that shares physiology with us humans, in that we have, and the other vertebrates on the planet have developed over the eons of evolution, endocannabinoid systems. Named that because they were searching to make sure there was no medical value to cannabis before they continued it in Schedule 1 of the U.S. federal government's Code on Drugs. And instead they found out that cannabis interacts with receptor sites in the human body, designed for chemistry created by the human body to oversee and maintain homeostasis on the rest of the body. We're at 419, by the way. I still haven't fixed that. So it's completely wrong and hypocritical, but here we are, and we'll see what we can do. It's 4:20, not quite seconds from now. I can't talk anyway, it seems. Oh man, excuse me.
Bring me in, I'll talk for you.
Come on in, Glenn.
All right. Hello, everybody. How's it going? All right.
If you don't know, because you missed the show and the last couple of shows where I've mentioned it now, but I don't want to belabor the point. I have there's a tumor in my esophagus that's causing me to have difficulty speaking and other things. It's 4:20, Glenn.
It is. Gotta light it up.
I'm now smoking heavy concentrates.
Oh yeah, and I saw him load the thing, man. Definitely heavy.
We got some of the live rosin. You know, that's the cat's meow, and this stuff, especially called Dragon's Blood, is really tasty.
So good,
and it's tasty.
Oh jeez.
So I got that. I got some honey oil. You know, the old school honey oil.
You do.
Oh man,
that sounds so good.
And then I sprinkle diamonds on top of that, and then I put some weed in there.
There you go, sir. Magnuson.
Oh man.
So, been a good week. Things are getting better.
Things continue to progress in a positive fashion. Yeah. You know, I feel better today than I have in a number of weeks.
That's good. Continue to do that.
I'm continuing to do that. I'm continuing to follow the proper leads as they come as to how to improve the battle that needs to happen between me and this thing that's decided to take up residence that needs to get the hell out.
And did you get an email from John Sweetleaf? I forwarded it to you.
I might have. Yeah,
Okay,
I did
good,
see
'cause
that.
he has some help there too, and you said not to send you messages, but an email might be all right. So I'd let him have
Sure.
your email address, and he said, "Is that
Yeah,
the right one?" I said, "Yep." He said,
I've got a huge, amazing team surrounding me of people that are supporting me in what's going on here, and you know, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, people will always want to help us, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't need to be have people come and think they're going to see me for the last time, and they're probably happy about that. But they say that they aren't, you know, and they're really sorry, and I believe it. And I'm not wanting to make light of it. We should really treat each other every time we see or leave each other like as if it's amazing that we get to see our friends and the people that we love, and you never know if you're going to see somebody again or not. Anyway,
never know.
I'm not going to keel over and die from this affliction anytime soon. One would hope.
Yeah,
but I'm just as susceptible as everybody else to keeling over and dying for a whole bunch of other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And life is very precious, and embrace it. And you know my mantra. If you've watched the show at all till the end ever, I don't know if people watch the show right till the end or not, but
they probably do, or
skip
to the end.
There's some that do, and bless you if you do. You know, I mean that's awesome. And then what I say at the end of every show is what I've been saying for years, what I believe strongly in, and that is just to have as much fun as you can, moment by moment.
Yep.
You know, the best thing you can do is try to make the world that you live in a better place, and helping people is a wonderful position to be if you're the guy that's doing the helping, or girl that's doing the helping, person,
yeah.
So
happy 420, everybody.
Yeah, just have as much fun as you can. Simple as that.
Wow.
Keep a positive attitude, and we've talked enough about this.
Yeah, good morning to Australia.
Good morning, Australia.
It's tomorrow morning too, probably.
I know it is in China. They're 16 hours ahead.
I was just saying here, Douglas was saying, how have you been? Oh, Gazer was talking to Douglas.
Oh, you guys in your thread.
Live life to your fullest, he says, Douglas. Yeah.
Live life to the fullest. You know, every moment. Don't lose your moments.
And Gazer has to go to court on May the 3rd, he says.
Sadness and fear and anxiety. And Gazer, I know you're going to court, and now that's terrible that they're going to waste your tax dollars on you too.
Yep.
And I know how you feel or would think about a government that's going to do that when all you've been doing is trying to make the world a better place and grow some weed, which makes the world a better place. So embrace it. Use it as an opportunity. Maybe there'll be some media there. Maybe you'll be able to express yourself about how you feel about this and how wrong this all is. Remember what the DEA judge Francis Young said back in the late 70s when he was tasked with looking into the whole cannabis thing. His statement, profound, short, the type of thing I'm talking about looking for, was that cannabis is the safest therapeutically active compound known to man. And for that, your government wants to spend tax dollars to try to vilify you? It has been wrong for 100 years in Canada, longer than that in the United States. And it's never going to be right. There will never be any justification for hurting people, punishing people, in the case of Jerry Martin, killing people, and he's not the only one, to try to prevent access to this natural plant. They shouldn't try to prevent access with the criminal law to any plant for any reason. They're plants. We're humans. Almost all of them can be dangerous. So what? It doesn't mean having a plant that has the potential to kill somebody if you ingested it. Doesn't mean having that plant is a criminal offense. even if there was a whole rash of people out there killing people on purpose with a particular plant, it still isn't right to ban possession of that plant for all of those people that might have other uses for it that aren't planning on killing anybody and don't.
Especially when it has healing qualities. Like,
oh, this one's just like...
Yeah, this is like, we have lots of healing qualities in our cannabis, but... Yeah.
Cannabis is not one of those dangerous plants. It couldn't be less dangerous. Every plant out there in the world is more dangerous. There's never been any justification for attempting to prohibit access to cannabis that makes any sense. The only thing that ever made sense was that it was about protecting other people's interests, economic gain, self-righteous indignation and control of other people. None of those are reasons for public servants to be imposing criminal penalties onto free citizens. And we start here.
Exactly, Adam. Exactly. Before pharmaceutical companies, all our medicines came from gardens.
Of course they did.
Yes.
Of course they did. That's where medicine is.
Yep.
What are we? We are living beings with a multi-billion-year legacy of procreation that brought us all to here, from the blades of grass to the birds, the bees, the humans, and everything else that's alive on this planet can trace back their beginnings to 4 or so billion years ago. And us as humans, what are we? Well, we're these evolved 4 billion-year-old creatures that are able to continue because we are open loops of a system. We're a system where we take in fuel, process it, use it, spit out waste, and procreate. And because of that, we continue to live. But what we are is the result of that fuel that goes in and gets used. That's what builds our bodies. That's what all of our cells are made out of. They don't get made out of thin air and magic. They get made out of a system of processing the fuel that we put into the usable pieces that we need to operate the entire body. We are made out of plants. Mm-hmm. That's my point. Mm-hmm. Prior to the sugar industry, people only ate plants.
Yeah.
Or animals that ate plants.
And the pharmaceutical companies are just trying to copy what the plants used to give us with their chemicals, right?
Absolutely.
Trying to make something like it, right? So they don't have to use plants and use their pharmaceuticals. But our plants never gave us the side effects that the chemicals can do while they try to imitate.
Well, sure, some of them do. You know,
think so?
Oh, sure. Some of the plants in nature have medicinal value.
That can give you cancer.
Some have the opposite of medicinal value. They can kill you. They can make you super sick.
I mean, the ones
some of those that are on this side of the spectrum that have medicinal value, some of those are still very volatile compounds.
Well, I know there's poisonous
plants. And there's side effects to many of those things as well. What the pharmaceutical companies do is to take those plants that have effects on people and dissect them to figure out what is the active ingredient, then what's it doing,
and then they try to.
And can we isolate that ingredient? Can we synthesize, out of
that's what they're trying to
out
do.
of other materials that same chemical compound, and then so they're mimicking exactly what you said. They're mimicking the plants.
Yeah.
And
they're trying to. They make money from it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, it was. I mean, maybe. Who knows?
But about the side effects thing, I was thinking, when you smoke pot, one of the side effects is you get hungry. So you eat.
Can.
But you don't need another pill for that. When you take pharmaceuticals, sometimes the side effects are to the point where you have to take another medication for it. That's what I meant by that part.
Yeah, and we've delved into that on the show as well. But that's a very happy convenience.
Yes.
Happy coincidence.
Yeah. Well,
For pharmaceutical companies and their shareholders.
Yeah.
We are kind of. I'm not just being cynical. I'm being real.
Yeah. Right.
They build in side effects, and if they don't build them in, they certainly seize upon them. Like any good business, like any smart person, if there's something there and it's a problem, you turn it into an opportunity. You learn from it. You figure out how to twist it to your advantage. And when a doctor can say, this is powerful medicine in this little pill bottle, and it's likely going to give you a stomach ache or a headache or make you sweat at night or all these other
diarrhea.
Things.
Something like that.
The list goes on and on, doesn't it? This is terrible.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Ah, well, I don't like it. Anyway, and then that happens to you subconsciously. You see, doctors work on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
Because that's where the real medicine lies, is within you.
Yeah.
So when they can access your subconscious, they can access that medicine inside you, that extensive medical library of knowledge and understanding and what to do that resides in each and every one of us and is accessed by our brain very inadequately most of the time. Although, thank goodness for the healing powers that we do have and our abilities to, to make things work. But to be fair and honest, I mean, the human mind is a very suggestible thing.
Yeah, what about hypnosis?
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Hypnosis is a very obvious, identified, specific way that you can get into a person's brain, shut off their filters, and access their behaviors and their beliefs. And that is done on other levels, not so obvious as a doctor with a watch, and you watch the watch, and you tick the tock, and he tells you these things, and he weaves this tale, and pretty soon you're out, and you're a chicken if he wants you to be. There's... What? Did I do it to the audience? I'm so sorry.
Squirrel.
I'm so sorry. Hypnosis is a real thing.
It is.
And it's been known about for a long time. And those smart entrepreneurs, figured out how to incorporate that into much of what they're doing when they're marketing their stuff. Mm-hmm. And for doctors...
And that's called subliminal messaging.
Subliminal messaging, and it's in all...
form of hypnosis, right?
It's in the looks that they give you. It's in the cadence of their speech. It's in all kinds of different things that are used and specifically understood that this is what gets people's attention. This is what shuts off the filters. This is what gets it into here. It's a science, man.
I can even give you an example that everybody can look at right now and see. And that's the Wendy's symbol. Wendy's hamburgers.
Sure.
If you look underneath, under here, it says mom.
Right.
If you look under at her collar of her shirt or something, it says mom there. But you have to look at it to see, because we just see Wendy. Right, but it actually
you see the mom, but that conscious part of your brain
is looking at
Wendy. It's
bypassed, yeah.
So it gets in there, and it affects people's feelings about things, and they do that all the time. And certainly doctors and pharmaceutical companies are probably some of the most skilled at using these techniques at influencing their patients. You can imagine that if a doctor didn't have a good bedside manner, and didn't do a good job of expressing how this medicine is going to help a person. In fact, if he was to suggest that maybe it won't work, that they wouldn't have such good success. If the doctor himself had doubts about the medicine, and that was communicated in some way, maybe subtly, maybe overtly, then that'll have an effect too. And they understand that. So they're a professional, they're in the white lab coats, they know everything about everything, and they're going to help you with your problem, and there's a pill for this, and they know all about it, and they can tell you all about it, and it's ritualistic, and you take it at certain times, and you bow to the north, well, maybe not, but, all that kind of stuff is there, and that's what it's all about. So, yes, pharmaceutical medicines are designed to have side effects that they seize upon in convincing you that this is going to work for you. And that's why you should continue to allow, in Canada's case, your tax dollars, and not always, but your tax dollars to buy this stuff, and the taxpayers will pay for it for you. Whereas in reality, so much of the healing power is within the mind. And that's what needs to be properly accessed and used. How do we get onto that? Because of what Judge Young said.
You can talk about Pat too now, because he sent me a message saying that the media ban is now over. Yeah. Right? So he can talk about that.
We're going to talk about Pat a little more for sure.
Okay.
I just want to say that the current U.S. president, Joe Biden, has said that he would like, he's pardoned thousands of people, by the way. He would like to see cannabis descheduled out of Schedule 1. So that's all great. And, who knows whether that'll...
We could use a few more mellow people.
I mean, better to have them say it than say the opposite, So, but, whether it actually ever gets done, it'll depend on whether or not they can satisfy the real powers that be and make sure that the money is still flowing towards them, unfortunately.
So you mean as long as they have enough money to pay off the powers to be, so that they can do this?
Well, they get paid off by policy.
Yeah.
If policies protect their interests, if policies promote their interests, I mean, that's their payoff. And so, congratulations, Pat. I mean, I know I'm so cynical about the whole thing and how much it costs to get to where we are, and the fact that the Crown Council can just all of a sudden decide to drop a thing. They've spent millions, and not that they should continue, even though they've spent millions and millions to get this far. They should have stopped it a long time ago. But there's no taking them to task on it, and that's where it's so really wrong. Why do they get carte blanche to spend as much money as they decide they want to get you? I mean, it's just ludicrous. I don't know what they spent in your case. I don't know what they're spending in my case, but I've seen how big the disclosure is and how many hours of undercover and surveillance work went on there, and all the stuff that they're spending money on to try to get me, to stop me from doing what is, I'm a good man just trying to do the right thing. My mom and dad taught me well, and I'm a citizen here, and this situation is wrong, and it needs to stop, and somehow it's got to stop. And so, I'm not motivated to get rich. I'm not motivated to get famous and have a big ego. I don't even like all of this stuff. I don't like the current state of affairs with respect to not being free and not having public servants working for me and living in a corrupt world. And I was instilled with a sense of duty and responsibility, and so once really understanding this, I quit my job. I lived not very well for the first little while after I quit my job. I had a damn good job. I'm a restoration expert. I was making kick-ass money. And I gave all that up right when I was at the prime of my career, 20-some years ago now, because the government is corrupt. They're very wrong in criminalizing people for pursuing a relationship with cannabis. They're smart to do that. And I just can't stand that happening, especially when I had a son that had turned 16 at the time and was now going to start using cannabis. And, what is his future in a world where the government is free to criminalize you and punish you and ruin your life because of the choice of a herb that makes you feel good? So
and keeps you healthy.
I didn't have much choice. Yeah. I told my mom that when she asked, "Why did you do that?" She said, "Why'd you quit your job?" To do what? She said. I said, "Mom, I got to try to solve this problem. That I said, you taught me how to be a good human and to do the right thing. Well, this is the right thing for me to do. That somebody's got to do this, and I can help, and so I have to help. And so here I am now. They're going to spend $1 million at least, probably already, to bring me to court to try to get a judge to agree that I broke the law the rule of law. I broke the rule of law. I didn't break any common laws, though. I didn't harm anybody. I didn't intend to harm anybody. So there's none of that. There's no damage, none intended, none done. Other than to the bottom line profits of the cartel's legal cannabis scam. Might be some damage there. Righteous damage, in my opinion. Damage that, the good Lord himself would probably be proud of as he threw money changers out of the temple, I think that we've been taken over by a bunch of, evil money changers.
Yeah.
That are, taking away way more than they should and harming a lot of very vulnerable people in the process. So I think it's righteous law breaking that's going on here. I had to always process these things, it's just how we were. We debated around the family table all the time about what's right and what's wrong. My parents were very strict religious Baptist people. And I could come to grips with understanding the principles of common law. And I spent a fair bit of time rolling all that stuff around. And then in the 80s there, they changed to the rule of law. They throw out the common law stuff. And I've just never been able to wrap my head around that.
No, you're right.
That doesn't make no sense to me. I mean, where are there any principles in the rule of law? I mean, there was a whole bunch of foundational pillars of common law.
Yeah.
Where is any of that present in the rule of law? Obviously, they're not using the pillars of the common law.
No.
Because they can maintain this ridiculous criminalization of human beings for wanting to have a relationship with this plant. Which is so ridiculous.
It is.
It's so... there was not a lot of coffee being drunk in Russia a few hundred years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Until for some reason they decided to ban it.
Yeah, and now there's lots of coffee.
And then all of a sudden everybody wanted to have some of that stuff. Everybody wanted to know what that was all about.
Oh, jeez.
There's a mentality to humans. We talk about freedom, and I've said it before, and that's the basis of what I'm all about. Mm-hmm. Is that people deserve to be free. People went to war and laid their lives on the line for us to be free, for God's sakes. Don't we all have some family connection to someone who, went to war to save us from slavery and, all the rest of what Hitler was going to bring, or what the Japanese were going to bring, or what, the Chinese might bring, or the Russians. Isn't it all about protecting our freedoms? People died for our freedoms. It's a give your life up for type of thing. Freedom is not a commodity. It's not a luxury. Freedom is as important to human beings and other living creatures as air and water and food and love. It is one of those things that without it, you're not living your life properly. If you think you're not free, it becomes an obsession. You find yourself in a cage, you'll find yourself in every spare moment trying to think of a way out of that cage. It's not fair that a government would impose such restrictions on people who are free or not. If this plant, I'm sorry, Glenn, I'm just rambling.
Go ahead. I'm just watching. I've been seeing some black flashing on the screen there. So I was wondering if people were seeing it, but they're not reporting it. So I'm just hoping that everything is going okay.
If you are charged with or in charge of people, you have a responsibility, a natural responsibility to protect those people, mostly to not be the source of bullying or harm to those people. I don't care if you're a pharaoh, a dictator, or a public servant. Nobody can override that natural right of a human being to not be bullied and responsibility of human beings to not bully other people.
No, it's not good to be a bully.
It's really not.
We have a pink shirt day and everything against bullying, so.
Yeah. When you want to try to convince somebody of something, that's fine. If you know they're wrong and you're right and it's dangerous, you can be a little forceful about that. But bullying seldom works anyway. So when a government comes along and arbitrarily decides, well, maybe there's a narrative, maybe there's a lead up to it, maybe they've planted some news stories or something, maybe people have come to believe that a certain thing is dangerous or whatever. Still don't matter if it is or isn't dangerous. When a government comes along and bans it from people, says nobody's free to encounter this stuff, that prompts a certain number of people to get involved with it, whether they were going to or not, when they had no intention of getting involved with it. Some will now get involved with it for the economic opportunities that presents. Others will do it just out of rebelliousness. It's not fair. I mean, these are things that, are obvious truths, right? I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. I didn't decide on it myself other than through, analyzing and thinking about these things. But these are things that are out there that have been discussed by great men for thousands of years. And it's pretty well understood. And 100 and some years ago, in the newly forming governments of this democracy that we find ourselves in here, they either knew or they should have known. Mm-hmm. If they didn't know that saying, okay, all you 30 million people here, you can't have this plant. I know a lot of you think it's a good plant. We're here to tell you it's not. You just believe us. I got science if you want to see it. We got some papers made up from leading scientists that'll prove to you that that's not a good thing to have. So you need to stop using that stuff. And if you don't, well, that's bad, that's wrong, and we need to have authority here. And we need to make sure that our authority can't be questioned because, then we'd have anarchy if that happened. So, no, none of you can have that anymore. No, not you Chinese people over there that have been using it as a herbal medicine for 3,000 years. No, not you Indian people over there who've been smoking it religiously for thousands of years. No, not you natural medicine practitioners over there who know that it's good medicine for people and it's an anti-inflammatory and it helps people sleep and distracts them from pain and changes their mood. No. All of you people can't have anything to do with that anymore. We know better than you. You elected us. You can trust us. So if you decide to continue to have that particular plant, we're going to knock down your doors. We're going to spend a whole bunch of money that we got from you and your neighbors to investigate you. And if we find that even a seed, little chunk of hash, some residue on your clothes or something, that's enough. We'll bring it into court, have it all analyzed at your expense, and we can prove that was this, and you had it, and now you're going to be punished for it.
I've been punished for it.
I've been punished for it big time.
I've been punished for it, yeah.
My punishment is continuing every day because I'm here.
Yeah.
Doing this. What am I doing? Continuing to fight a very frustrating government that's corrupt in a country that I thought was a little more wholesome than that. That hurt me. Gave up a job where I could be just rich, living in a really nice house right now, and just, enjoying the spoils of my labor in learning a good trade and doing it. Because I was right there 20 years ago, and I gave it all up to do something I'd never had any experience with. Try to get cannabis legal.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
And he's still here. And
it's taken this long.
Yep.
And I'm still here.
Yep.
And I embrace everything. I have as much fun as I can with whatever is going on. I would sing that from my prison cell. I will sing it from my deathbed. But that doesn't mean I want to be in a prison cell, and that doesn't mean I want to be on a deathbed. It simply means that my disposition is, because of my understandings, that I will make the best of wherever I'm at. But I have had to make the best of a very bad situation here, where I represent and try to speak for thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. Right now, they estimate there's 225,000 people having relationships with the dangerous, risky drugs that are poisoned with fentanyl in this province.
In this province.
In this province.
Wow.
225,000.
Wow.
225,000 people that if they had easy access and proper knowledge of cannabis edibles and concentrates and other forms of cannabis and other things, they wouldn't have that relationship. 225,000 people, most of whom were put there by a doctor who prescribed that to them and started their relationship with those drugs. Doctors should first prescribe cannabis. That should be the go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Lester Grinspoon said that there. He said that should be the first choice of physicians in how to treat a variety of illnesses. Because cannabis is very effective for most things, as it supplements your endocannabinoid system that is charged with overriding and seeing that all of these different systems are working properly. So that's why it makes sense that it works for people. And two, it has very little side effects. It's not like these other drugs that we talked about that have a huge amount of pretty nasty side effects. So much they have to say
it in the commercial.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You're right. They tell you about all the side effects that this could happen.
and it still doesn't deter most people from using it.
I know, eh?
They figured that out. That's what I said. We live in a world where they are blatantly trampling all over our rights. Obviously, overtly, and they don't care, and we know they're doing it, and they don't care about that because we can't do nothing about it. So that's what's going on, and and here I am, all these years later, still having to do this. Now, like I said, I do my best to enjoy myself and have fun with things, and there's a hilarious side to what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. We're breaking the Canadian criminal law overtly as possible on purpose, from an RV that's got signs decked out around it to tell everybody what's going on here.
Yeah.
We're less than a block away from the police station and even closer to the courthouse. We have police driving by all the time. We have judges and prosecutors and lawyers walking by all the time. And they all know what's going on here. We were charged 2 years ago with selling without a license. And that's what's going to court in 2 weeks now, 2 years after they raided us. They raided us years after we started, over a year after we started on this block selling cannabis. It was almost 2 years before they came in and busted us, raided us. Mm-hmm. And then we never stopped operating. We put up a tent when they took the RV, and we were open every day just like we are here, 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. And here we are, every day that they continue to process this file and spend more tax dollars on trying to stop me and punish me is another day that we operated our program for another 8 hours, helped hundreds of people, had 0 victims of any sort, and proved again, another day in, of proving that what we're doing is necessary, helpful, non-harmful, and yet there we are.
Yeah. And we're helping people. We're saving people's lives. There can't be something illegal about saving people's lives.
There shouldn't be.
No.
Not in my understanding of the law.
Yeah.
So we'll see if the judge has a similar understanding of the law.
Oh, hopefully.
Hopefully.
But,
and then we'll see if the government...
But like Jack said, you're on video. right? Telling people what you're doing, right? So he made it pretty easy for their case, right? But we're going to fight it because it's not a good law. It's not a good law.
I know. So what would the answer? What would the answer be then? I got to do what I got to do, but I'm going to hide.
We did that for a long time.
A smart person would hide.
Yeah.
They would find a basement suite somewhere. They'd get some discrete cards. They'd get a disposable phone. Whatever.
A burner.
Whatever it is that you do to hide. And we've done the opposite because this is not something that we want to hide. This is something that we want to show, because it works. It works. Hey, you got a public health emergency? We got something that works better than anything else. Help us. Oh, you won't help us? Oh, well, we got to do it, don't we?
That's just illegal.
We got to do it. You would think that they could come after me if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
That if I go to city council like I did and say,
I know
really the science is there. We've got, the peer-reviewed medical studies that show it's true, and we know it's true. And so we're going to give out we want to give out these edibles to people so that they can use them to offset the use of this deadly poison drug supply. And we know it works. Would you help us and let us do that? Oh, you won't? Oh, well, okay, I guess I'll just go away then. And, and so here we are, it's a couple years later, a couple years into it, and all these people have died. And they come knocking on my door and they go, hey, you knew how to help people. Mm-hmm. You didn't do it. Mm-hmm. People died. Mm-hmm. Would I not be liable, for some of that death? Mm-hmm. If I was sitting there in my house with full knowledge that I can help these people get off these drugs, and I just don't do it because some corrupt government that's stupid as hell or corrupt as can be, they won't let me? You think that would fly if the judgment wasn't coming from that corrupt government, but it was coming from the almighty creator of everything herself that comes down and decides to have a look at what's going on here? Don't you think one of her angels wouldn't come and knock on my door and say, hey, you knew. You could have helped.
Or maybe when you die, you got to get there. You have to deal with that. Yeah.
Maybe if I ascend to some other judgment.
You can't come in because you knew.
Yeah. I ascend to some other judgment in the sky.
Yep.
And they say to me,
your higher power.
Well, for that scourge on humanity ran for several years.
We gave you the knowledge.
You had the knowledge. And you did not save people with it. What would my judgment be? Going down to visit the hot guy? With all the hot girls that you can't have, apparently.
And some hot food, I guess.
Food you can't eat, girls you can't touch. Whatever it is that goes on down there, it's designed to not be fun.
No, not at all.
I must say that.
There is that, yeah.
Just an aside, So, burning sage gives me a headache.
Yes.
For my indigenous brothers and sisters out there, I hope you're beyond believing that makes me a demon, but apparently not everyone is.
There's somebody out there.
So there's one indigenous woman. I shouldn't even identify her as anything but a woman.
Yeah,
she's a woman that came here and wanted to spread a bunch of burning sage smoke around my office and around the RV. And I told her, I said, please don't do that. I have a bad reaction to that. Well, then she posted online that the owner of the CSP must be a demon. Because, the burning of the sage is to get rid of evil spirits. So
I've been a demon for 4 years?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, wow.
So I wrote to her, I said, well, if I'm a demon, then demons aren't as bad as what you think they might be or what we thought they were. Mm-hmm. But, really, I think it's something else like a neurological reaction or... Who knows?
It could be an allergy.
But it's something.
Yeah.
And I said, it's not... I said, I'm willing to stand up and say something about it, but I know there's a lot of other people that really don't like it either.
Yeah.
And they walk away without saying anything because they know that people like her are going to point their finger at them and say, oh, look, demons.
Yeah.
Look at the evil spirits running away there.
You mean like garlic?
So I asked her, I said, how did you come to believe this anyway? Did the almighty creator of everything come down herself and tell you that that's the case? Because, whatever. So
it's like garlic and vampires, right?
I don't know if
you wear a ring of garlic.
Well, I know the thing. I just don't know if that unfairly oppresses vampires.
Okay, I'll go vampires. Okay.
Well, and it kind of demonizes garlic, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it glorifies garlic and it demonizes vampires. And I've never met a vampire I didn't like. Mind you, I've never met a vampire.
No.
Although I've met some energy vampires.
Oh, really?
That steal your energy.
I met the one that hit my blood out of my arm.
Oh, yeah, they did that to me yesterday.
Did they? Yeah, they don't bite me. They
2 hour wait.
They use a needle. A 2 hour wait, eh? Wow. I'm glad I live in a small town. It's not that long of a wait.
And so now I'm having intravenous vitamin C.
Well, that's good.
Well, it should be. That's the idea.
That's good.
My good friend Lloyd, he's got 2 cancers in remission for 8 years now, and he swears it's this high potency vitamin C. It's calcium ascorbate, because that's able to be more absorbed than the typical vitamin C in the marketplace. So then somebody, actually it's the crazy woman that said I was a demon. She was here prior to saying that. She wrote that online afterwards, but she had told me that there's places you can go and you can get vitamins intravenously. And so I went down there and had a conversation with this high-end IV drip place. Hey, Sadie Lou. And boy, they're fancy there, I'll tell you. They're very, very friendly people in a very posh environment with big screen TVs. Heck, they'll even bring you cashews with your water.
Really?
And
while you're doing this?
Yeah, if you're there, you can have water. And would you like cashews with your water, sir?
Oh, there you go. Wow.
And it's only like $300 and some for the big bag of vitamins.
The big bag of vitamins
that they want to drip into your arm.
You paid $300 for that?
No,
okay.
no.
Okay, I was going to say.
I simply went for the consultation ahead of time to see if I wanted that. It's a pretty tough sell. But for me, I'm already taking everything that was in that bag, except that the vitamin C, when taken intravenously, is able to enrich your cells with vitamin C more than you can get by taking it orally.
Oh, okay.
So when I take the high-potency vitamin C orally, that's the side effect. There's really nothing else, but the one side effect is diarrhea.
Oh, okay.
And they said it's because the vitamin C goes into your system absorbs as much of it as it can through the oral methods that it has,
and then gets rid of
and then it sits in your stomach where it causes the problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
So taking it intravenously produces a much higher vitamin C count within your cells, and that's what you're going for. So I thanked them very much for, I didn't have any of the cashews with the water, but and I didn't even have them put the hockey game on the big screen TV, even though it was a Saturday morning and there was a game on.
Oh, wow.
They offered to do that. I thought it was just for advertising their stuff, because that's what it was in a loop of advertising.
I see.
They went, we can put the hockey game on there for you, sir.
There you
go. Just sign here and give us your credit card number.
Oh, really?
So, I also realized that the naturopaths that I had been seeing up until I had to go see the other doctors, that they had mentioned something about a vitamin infusion as well.
Yeah.
So I went to them. It's about a third of the cost, and I had one session, and it was interesting. It's about 90 minutes out of your life. They sit you in a comfy chair, and you'll turn the lights down for you if you want to. And I didn't really notice anything. Now,
but you're saying that you're feeling better now.
Well, I've been feeling progressively better for the last 5 weeks or so here. Ever since I had the breakthrough in being able to swallow better, and that's been continuing and feeling better. I'm putting quite a bit of stuff in with the smoothie that I take. That's so full of all of this amazing good stuff and what have you. And so Google's an amazing resource. You can get it to say whatever you want it to say, pretty much. So I asked it the question about what to expect from a vitamin C IV boost.
Yeah.
And I got, because it was now a few hours later, and my staff is asking me, how do you feel? And I said, I really don't feel much of anything other than tired. By that time in the day, I start to run out of energy, and I was feeling tired. But, I'd been taking high-potency vitamin C for, months prior to that, so maybe that's why. But the next day, I go to show Adam, Bricks, what Google said.
Yeah.
And I must have asked the question differently or something, because now, the first time I asked, it was, you could be tired, some fatigue and some nausea and dizziness and all these things like that. And now I'm trying to show Bricks, and it doesn't say that at all. It says you could get a boost of energy, and some things like that.
Dr. Google.
You gotta
watch out for that thing, man.
Watch out.
They've had people say that online, too. Just watch out for that thing.
Yeah, you can get varying answers.
And you can get it from, like Mayo Clinic information and stuff, because somebody just puts that up there, right? Mayo Clinic, right? I don't know. Good evening, Steve.
I don't know either.
Donations. Steve is saying hi
for
to
sure.
us.
And I think he had a birthday recently, so happy birthday, Steve.
Yeah, did he?
I think I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. You never know for sure, right? Because sometimes people's birthdays are posted on there and it's not really their birthday.
It's not there, yeah. But you still do it anyways, right?
Yeah, still do it.
Because
any opportunity to celebrate's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm all down with that.
All right,
so what else do we need to talk about?
I don't know. Are you going to go out to the RV today?
Yeah, in a little bit here.
All right, well, then you get
a little bit... we really didn't talk enough about Pat. He's going to be on the show.
Yeah.
He's coming down here for 420 in April.
Okay.
And, we'll ask him all about it. I mean, it is a huge win because now they've stopped the damn thing and he can stop living in fear. And I know Pat's a brave guy.
Yeah.
And that's something their lawyer commented on too. That, this whole process of them opening their store, operating it in the face of possible prosecution and then ending up going down that path and all these years of being persecuted by the prosecution, really. I imagine he's okay with it. He's a smart guy that has a good disposition on things. But what about his kids? What about his wife? What about his mom? What about the people around him? How have they been affected by this? And all of that kind of stuff. So I hope he'll open up a bit about what the costs to him have been, besides financial, but including
now that
financial.
He probably will. All right.
I hope he does.
Steve says he's sending out another donation this weekend.
Thank you so much.
You're helping a lot of people, Steve. Thank you. It's people like you and the people that donate that make the difference down here. It really is.
It does. And, and that's what we're doing here, and I guess that's what we need to talk about, except I already segued into 420. You didn't notice that, eh?
Yeah, you did.
You didn't pick up on that.
You did. You said that he's coming here on 420.
I was segueing into 420 there.
All right.
Okay. 420 is going to be interesting this year.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to say much about it because of the oppression of our municipal government and the CSU. I'm sure they're working in concert together. They were both present on this recent cannabis day that was so horrible that they would overtly do what they did. And so I can only imagine that they've had even more time to contemplate what action they can take to prevent 420 this year in Vancouver. So 420 is going to happen. It's going to be a multi-headed event with the heads pretty much all completely independent of each other. We're not going to announce where we're going and what we're doing until right up to close to the event itself. I guess I'm free to say that there's certainly 420 being planned for the beach.
Is there? Oh, I haven't heard that one yet.
Oh yeah, and because it's being so openly promoted, willing to say that.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. But I know there's a number of people, as there is every year, excited to be coming down for 420. Some of them wondering what's going to be here.
Yeah, I've had a couple of questions.
There's a so-called legacy event that isn't, and I'm not going to say any more than that. I will not promote it. I will not talk about it. Maybe after the fact I will.
Maybe.
But for right now, we'll just leave that alone. But there's options going to be here on that day for people to celebrate and protest. And we'll all just try to make as big an impact as we can and have as much fun as we can. And I don't know about the other ones that are being planned, but I hope that they have contingency plans as well. Plans B, C, and D for what to do if the mayor, he's such a piece of shit, this mayor, I'll tell you. He's the worst mayor we've ever had in Vancouver. We had a fair amount of fairly progressive mayors, thankfully. We had some mayors that weren't progressive, but they were open-minded enough to be convinced. And so there's been a real succession of mayors throughout the years that I've been here in Vancouver, and that's all my life, of mayors that continued to push the envelope, to continue to have progressive policies around drugs, and have led the nation and led the world in many ways in understanding the dynamics of prohibition and the value of harm reduction and things like that. This mayor has pretty much done his best to undo the decades of good work that it's been done here, especially by the cannabis activists, but other drug policy stuff as well. So can't wait till he's gone. Anybody's going to have to be better than he is. In the meantime, he's our nemesis, and he wants to have his board meetings and figure out how he can waste taxpayer dollars on putting down what has been an extremely valuable protest in this world for, well, the 20-some years I've been involved with it, that's for sure, and it goes farther back than that. Then, we'll do our best to have our meetings and to have our plans as to how we can continue to get the media to pay attention to this issue and how we can bring our people together to protest and celebrate in fine form as we've been doing at 420 for a long time. So come on down, come on out, get some knowledge through the grapevine and figure it out, and we'll see you here in Vancouver for 420. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Can we talk about Dan's boat cruise?
Don't know. I'll talk to Dan. I'll talk to Dan about that.
Well, he's posted it on Facebook. So.
Yeah, I know he has.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm not sure who's involved in that, and I should. I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah,
that
that's
I don't
what I was
know.
asking, right? Because that is another 420 event that's happening on the ocean, right? So, but and I know
that's at night.
It's at 8:00 until 12.
It's an after party.
Yes, it's an after thing. Yes,
and I'm not sure who's involved with that.
Okay.
But there's some dissension in our groups.
Well, there always is every year.
There has been for a long time.
There has been for a while, right? So
unfortunately,
yeah.
I'd love it not to be the case, but so be it. Whatever is, and you can only do two types of things. You can change things or you can't.
Yeah.
So we'll roll with what we got. We'll play with the cards we were dealt. We'll dance with them which we brought with us, and all that kind of stuff. So sure that brings us, I guess, to the mission that we're on here.
Yep. I'll go back to producing. Me again. Yeah, you do that, and I'll say goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week. And daylight savings time's here now. If you haven't changed your clock, you better do it.
I can see that on camera. That's terrible.
And we got light out there now, so that's so nice to be in the light. I see the light. We'll see you next week, sir.
Yeah, all right. You'll see me next week for sure. As we continue to do it again, and do it again until it gets done right. This journey of ours, this quest for low barrier access community cannabis stores, continues on into its 8th year now. 8 years of defying laws, but not purposely, not by our desire, only by the needs, by our responsibilities. We don't have a choice. I don't know if the government understands that or not, or if the courts are going to be made to understand that or not. But clearly, there was not the choice to stop providing our life-saving product to people here that can't get it any other way. There was just no way. I don't even know if an unethical person could walk away. Probably, because I'm not sure what that means to be an unethical person. Because if you got an ounce of humanity in you, just a tiny little bit, how could you possibly walk away from the people that we had been helping? If you could understand that week after week after week at Vandu for 3.5 years, we had many of the same people lining up to greet us, to talk to us, to tell us their stories, to update us on what's going on in their lives, to cry in front of us at times, to cry tears of joy and gratitude at other times because of what we were providing for them. 3.5 years of that. Then we move into the store because City Council says they'll support us in a store. But then they say we have to wait for Health Canada to give us approval. So we were only in the store for 5 or so months. But for 5 or so months, every day, all day, we had these same people that were in the lineup at Vandu to get their care packs coming in to get their 420 mils for free every 4 days and updating us on their lives and telling us their stories, crying in front of us and joyfully thanking us daily. What those people? It would have to be quite the psychopath to be able to turn your back on that. You can only imagine that by that time we're over 4 years in. By the time we were supposed to leave the store and shut down the business, according to Health Canada, we were 4.5 years into knowing all these people. Some of the people, when they found out what was going to happen, that we were being ordered out of the store, told to stop, many of them cried. Many of them expressed their horror. How do you stop? Why would you stop? You know what you're doing is right. You're there dealing with these people, recognizing how much suffering is going on with them and how much of it you've been helping to alleviate, recognizing how much they're going to suffer without you. How do you stop? You can't. The government's not here. Mr. Benoit Seguin and his team of people at Health Canada that worked diligently on our file for the 3 years that they had it in front of them, only to say, no, you can't, after over 3 years. They were never here. We gave them a wonderful written submission, including video and testimonials and science about what we were doing. But we must not have worded it right. We must not have put it together properly. We must have failed to communicate to that team of people and Mr. Seguin the importance of what we're doing here, the value in what we're doing here, and that there is no justification in stopping. There is serious justification in a government helping with what we're doing here. They never came here. 3 years. They never even discussed it with me or anybody other than their team of people and maybe their stakeholders. You know, those people with licenses to sell extremely expensive cannabis, see whether or not they want to have low barrier access to cannabis. But they never talked to me. They never talked to any of my people here. How can they make a logical choice, a rational, correct decision about whether or not we stop helping people. How can they? Who are they? I've never met them. They've never come here. They've never talked to any of the people we're helping. They've never seen the people cry out of fear of losing what we're providing. They've never seen all these people on video. If they watched the video, they'd get some glimpses of people's testimonials about that. For all we know, they never watched the video. I'm pretty much convinced they never read our submissions. How could they? Because we didn't do a bad job of describing what's happening here. There were no gaps in our application where they could point to and say, oh, but you're leaving out the fact that there's all this other harm on the side going on. There was none of that. What did they have to say about why we should stop this valuable, necessary program? Well, all of our weed doesn't come through them. And we suggested it could. No response. No discussion. No conversation about how could it come from us. Because it's obviously all established right there. It comes from them at a price. The head of the cartel's got to take his $1 a gram right off the top. $454 a pound right off the top. Then everybody else wants a piece all the way down. Requirements for security that make no sense if it wasn't more valuable than gold and gasoline. Nobody's breaking down greenhouse walls and doors to get at the lettuce that people are growing, or even the heirloom tomatoes that people are growing. They don't have to put up electrically charged barbed wire with cameras. There's no justification for any of that. There's no justification for Trudeau getting his piece at the top. There's no justification for the security that farmers have to live under because the commodity is so valuable. It grows like anything else. If you're not growing it like anything else, then grow indoors and put up a fence. And yeah, you can charge more, and maybe people will steal it from you if they can. But just farmers growing a crop that comes to market at a reasonable price, that's there for people to have at a reasonable price. Sure, you got the connoisseur stores. You can pay hundreds and thousands of dollars for a pound there if you want. Good on you if you do, and you got the money, and you want that somewhat better cannabis. That's fine. But don't deny the poor people access to what can easily be provided by farmers if the government gets out of the business. Government being in the business is never a good thing, and it's sure proving itself to be the case now. Oh, man.
It's all right.
I need a barricade here. That's what I need. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry.
It is what it is. I can't control it. If I could, I would. But
we can get you a spittoon.
I got the spittoon. I got the spittoon.
There you go.
We're not making music with it. But it's there. It's a silent spittoon on purpose. But the whole thing I don't enjoy at all, and I'm really sorry to subject other people to it. But, I'm trying to carry on here and get this done, and so I guess I'll be brief. So, we continued on doing what we'd been doing. Can't work in the store because the city says they'll take the landlord's property and money away, so okay. We bought an RV, we work out of an RV, and 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, we provide low barrier access to cannabis in all of its different forms, low cost, no cost, and whatever the neighborhood needs, we're here to provide it as best we can. We're doing God's work, we're doing the government's work, and, the law be damned, and anybody that would enforce a bad law like that be damned. We'll see what the courts do, but certainly Crown Council be damned, that they think it's okay to spend so much money to try to prevent what is helping people. is insane and disgusting. But that's what we're doing. There's a whole long story attached that I'm not going to tell today, or maybe any other day. Maybe we'll have to go back over previous shows to find out, the journey that we've been on here for over 7 years of defying governments, marching on in full knowledge of everyone and in full sight of everyone, trying to do what we can to solve a public health emergency and save the lives of the poor people that are caught up in that. So let's go for a brief walk outside and see what's happening with that. I do want to say that, oh man, we're outside. So the weekly THC weather report is, it's a stellar day in Vancouver.
It's going to be warm this weekend.
Yeah, it's warmer right now than it has been because it's been relatively cold for the last little while. But it's going to get warm. We're going to have an unusually, a non-seasonal warm period for
the
a
weekend.
few days.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah, something like that. And then back to seasonal conditions again a week later, which means it'll be a bit cold still. But a beautiful day. I don't see a cloud in the sky anywhere.
Neither do I.
And it's very nice out here. So we got a bunch of people at the RV. We'll try not to make them too visible for you, just because you never know if they want people to see them here. Maybe they've got family that they don't want to know that they're here. Whatever it is, we try to respect their needs on that, so we don't get too close when there's people there. So maybe we'll go up the traffic side.
Yeah, we'll go up the side.
Circle now. So as I said, we try to be very open about what we're doing here. This is a low barrier access point for cannabis. We've been saving lives with cannabis since 2017. We're trying to stop fentanyl overdoses, and this is the ridiculous sign that the government came up with to warn people about THC, but really it should tell people that THC can stop the fentanyl overdose. And that's what needs to be known here. There's no real warning required for THC. There's another story.
There's the clouds. Hey, found the cloud.
Oh yeah, and there's some over there too.
There's some over there too.
It's like a little housekeeping thing.
Hello. Hello, gentlemen.
We need to hire a maid, I think, to...
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
You did,
sorry.
No.
The ship got a little wacky today, in the best way, though. We had a great day.
People live in here, so...
Yeah.
Well, 8 hours a day. You're somewhere 8 hours a day. You're living there, basically.
Well, you work, you live and work.
Yeah.
8 hours a day.
They work and live at the same time. I require that.
Yes. And you require testing of the product.
No non-living workers going on here. And there is product testing regularly going on.
Yes.
Yeah, those magic mushrooms are quite good. I've product tested enough.
That only goes with the sweater when you're consuming mushrooms.
And what does it say? Assholes live forever?
Yeah.
There you go.
Makes sense.
Hopefully the next trip we have is a cleaning trip. But yeah, ha ha ha.
Well, we'll always have assholes among us, won't it?
Yeah, and we always have one.
Part of the open loop system that we live with.
Yeah. There's always the one in the back of us, right?
It's good to have one too.
Yeah.
It's good to have one.
Yeah.
So without it, we'd be in some serious trouble. And if you don't know what happens if it stops working, well,
Jeez, you don't want to know.
everybody needs to have a good asshole working
Because I'm
for
using
them.
it. Because I'm strong.
Just use it, sparingly and in the right places, and then it's all good.
If you didn't have one, it'd be a very shitty experience.
You have to go there. I'm trying to avoid that.
I had to, yes.
Very good. So anyway, this is this is what we do. This is what we do every day. We just live in here and help the people that come to the window as best we can with whatever we can get for them. We try to do it at prices that go from zero to whatever is reasonable and people can afford, and keep it all going. It's a balance, of course, when you're doing something like this. You gotta have income and because there's so much going out, and we try to make it work as best we can. So far, so good. And if only the government would give me some legitimacy to have it as a real business, to operate it properly, to be able to balance things and all the stuff that would come along with a proper business. That's what we're asking for. That's what our journey is all about. We need to have low barrier access community cannabis stores. Farmers need to be able to bring cannabis to the marketplace without barrier, just like people need to be able to walk into that store without barrier. Some regulations make sense on concentrates, absolutely, but reasonable regulations. And even there, when so many people can and are growing for themselves, extracting and creating these concentrates themselves, the government just needs to have proper educational campaigns about such things. Otherwise, let the marketplace decide. Thanks to all the people that are operating CSPs across the country. I'm sorry I still don't give you guys enough time, on the show here for what's going on. But check out the CSP East Coast in Halifax. Check out what's going on with the CSP in Ottawa. We've got one in Surrey, we've got one in Newton, we've got one in Langley. There's more.
Mission.
And multiplying, my friend.
We're multiplying. It's the right thing to do, and people are understanding that. And government needs to get their head out of the corporate asshole and get it right and do it for the people and be the government that we're hoping they can be. Limited, accountable, transparent public servants that protect us from these corporate influences and agendas that would monopolize us and oppress us financially as they will and have every chance they get, because that's just what business does. But government's role is to be a buffer between us and that corporate agenda and the desire to make as much money as possible as fast as possible. We need to have them respect the poor people, the sick people, the people that need good cannabis on a daily basis and can't afford what this so-called legalization has to offer them. Those people are being left out of it. Those are the people that should be the ones included if nobody else is. It's upside down, it's backwards, it's inside out. We need to solve it. We need to keep working on it. Write letters, make phone calls, talk to people, get educated, become part of this great movement for freedom and for freeing this plant for people to have access to. Thanks to all the donators. Thanks to all the people that help in any way that people help him. Thank you for watching the show. Do your best to live a good life. Be the best you that you can be. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to other people, especially those that it's hardest to be kind to. And most important, remember that life is short and it's very serious. In fact, it's way too serious to take too serious. So moment by moment, which is all you really own, is the moment that you're in. Have as much fun as you can till I see you next week.